Hi, my name is Miss Leba, and today we will be going over geometry and two-dimensional shapes. If you've never been introduced to the Van Healy model, that's just basically the different levels of geometry. You start off basic, and then it gets a little bit more complex. Usually visualization is what children they're accustomed to. They see it, they know that it's a square, it's a circle, it's a triangle. They think of things that it reminds them of. If they are just barely starting with shapes, they're not going to know, much about it. They're not going to be able to describe it as well. And it's important that students go through the levels in order. That way they can have an understanding of what goes first, of what they know about shapes, what goes next about shapes, and so on. The level that I actually want to go through is going to aim a little bit at, kindergarten, not so much first grade, because kindergarten is where they're really kind of just exploring the shapes and kind of being introduced to attributes. So usually in kindergarten they can describe, identify, and compare circles and triangles, rectangles and squares. But they're usually, if they haven't really been introduced to attributes, then that's something that you could do for a level 0 student. The level 0 is visualization. Students think about shapes and what they look like, and that they seem alike. They see things like a ball, they know that's a circle, or they see a circle and it looks like a cookie. They can describe these shapes or these objects as shapes without including the attributes, without saying how many sides it has or things like that. But something that you could do with a level 0 student is you could have a worksheet with shapes and they can cut them out themselves, or you can just have shapes already cut out or little models. So for this activity, you could ask them to go ahead and group the shapes that they know are alike, that they seem the same, and of course they are going to try and group them by how they look. So you have your triangles, your circles, your squares, and a lot of times a level 0 student is probably going to confuse their rectangles with their squares, but that's also something that you could explore with them, telling them that that they're not equal sides or something like that. And here we have a pentagon. Some students might not know what that is. You could also introduce them to a 5-sided shape. So they could just group them to the best of their knowledge. If you want to introduce the attributes to them, an activity that you could do is you have your shapes, and you could say that you can make columns. For instance, you have no sides, you have 3 sides, 4 sides, and on the bottom we can do 5 sides. So you can let them know. You can start off with a square and make sure that you would say a square, and you can let them know that a square is equal, has equal sides, and how many sides does it have? 1, 2, 3, and 4. So if we're looking at this chart, where would we put this 4-sided square? Where you have no sides, 3 sides, 4 sides, and 5 sides. Well, you would count the sides and put it under 4 sides. And then you have your triangle. Once again, they would count the sides, 1, 2, 3, and they would put that under 3 sides. And another thing you could let a level 0 student know is that triangles do not always have equal sides like a square does. The same goes for a rectangle. You have a rectangle, it may look like a square, and they might identify it as a square, or they might not identify it as a square, but they will count 1, 2, 3, 4 and know that it's similar to a square. It has 4 sides. Now the circle, you would have to let them know that it is round and it has no sides, so it would go in the no sides category. As for pentagon, they would have to count that themselves, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and that would go in the 5 side category, and that's just introducing them to an attribute of sides and how shapes can be equal.